My name, as you heard, is Alan Moskin. I live in Nanuet, New York, in Rockland County. I'm a retired civil trial attorney from New Jersey, and a World War II infantry soldier and a liberator. So when I hit 17, May 30th, 2 weeks later, I started Syracuse University. 1 year later, I got a draft order from the government that read, big letters, greetings. I never knew who put that word in. That was when you report for a physical exam, like you're going to a bar mitzvah or a wedding, but greetings. And it's any World War II guy, I'll tell you that's what you got. I passed my physical and I went to Camp Landing in Florida for 3 months of infantry basic training in the United States Army. I was a young Jewish kid. I never had a gun in my hand before. I've been around. I was an athlete. I went to summer camp, and everything, but I never shot or never knew anything about shooting. And basic training, as an infantry basic training, literally you learn how to kill or be killed. You learn how to survive in combat. An M1 rifle, BAR, which is a Browning automatic rifle, a machine gun. How to stick a bayonet in somebody's gut. But you do what you have to do, and I did it. We fought in very heavy combat in Frankfurt, Coburg and Beirut, Amberg, Regensburg, Straubing. I lost a lot of buddies in every one of these battles. Too many. I'm just one of the lucky ones. So I'm here because God looked down on me, because if I was 100 meters to my right and 100 meters to my left at any time, I wouldn't be here. And sometimes I wonder, and I had to fight that too, with the guilt of why I'm here and a lot of my buddies are not. Rabbi last in Yorktown when I spoke, when I said this, and I'm not that spiritual like you fellas, but he said maybe God was looking down on you and wanted you to survive so you could speak to the young people and others that what you're doing today. It kind of broke me up a little bit. Maybe that there is something to that, because I often wonder why I made it and others didn't. But I want to just tell you a little bit about combat, just so you get an idea that it's not a video game. It's not a movie or a TV. I see too many of the young people with the video stuff, and my grandchildren, with the killing and the violence, and I can't look at a gun since World War II. That's me. I'm not going to get into a thing with the National Rifle Association, but I can't touch a gun or look at it. I know I killed plenty, too many. Never enjoyed it. Believe me, I never did. But the second day I was on the line outside of Beirut, all hell is breaking loose, and the crowds are throwing everything in on us. And then it let up a little bit, and all of a sudden, boom, something hit the top of my head, on my helmet, and I reach up and I pull down, and I'm holding an arm, blood-soaked. The fingers are doing this in front of me, just like this. You think that doesn't shake you up? And then on the wrist is an eagle, tattooed an eagle, and I start screaming, Wilson, Wilson, Wilson. Because Wilson had an eagle tattooed on his wrist. He was going to soar like an eagle. And I'm talking to him maybe 10 minutes before in the rear, and now I'm holding his blood-soaked arm. And then about 2 weeks later, outside of Straubing, all hell was breaking loose, and the Krauts again were throwing a lot of artillery and mortars. The Krauts are the word we use for the Germans, like Jerry's, Krauts, among others. And my best friend, best soldier I ever knew, TR from a little town outside Detroit, always trying to help the rooks. The rooks are the guys that are on the line the first day, and when you're on the line the first day, you're scared. And I mean scared. Anybody tells you they weren't scared is a liar or a moron or a combination of both. And this day, it was bad. Everything was coming in. You can, whoosh, you know, if you're in combat, you know what that sound is when the artillery and the mortars are coming in. sergeant said, everybody hit the hole. And I went down. Last thing I do, I saw my best friend about 100 meters to my right, still directing the new guys, right flank, left flank, telling them where to go. And then about a minute later, when it let up, I look up and I don't see TR. And I run as fast as I could to my right, 100 meters. And there's my best buddy laying with the back of his head against a crater. And as I got close, I saw his right leg about 10 or 15 feet away from his body, and his insides are all inside out, all over the place. And I ran up and I put my helmet under his chin so he didn't look down and see what was going on in his... And he said to me, "Ali, can you help me? Ali, can you help me?" He's the only one who called me Ali. "I don't feel anything, I'm numb. Can you help me?" Those are the last words he said to me, and the sergeant said, "Come on, college boy, get your rump up and get going. You can't stay back with the wounded. Those are the orders. You can never stay back with the wounded." And I had to leave my best friend dying in a filthy crater in Germany, and you don't get over that, believe me. And the lieutenant asked me to write the letter to his mother, because usually lieutenants do that. And then 3 or 4 nights in a filthy foxhole, I was scribbling with a crayon on toilet paper, anything I could get, to his mother to tell him what a great son she had. And he didn't die with pain or died as a hero and everything else. So we became very close after the war, his mother and I went out there a couple of times on the anniversary of his death. You don't read about this stuff in the newspapers. This is kind of, I'm just giving you a little sideline here. And the last thing I'll tell you, I can tell you things a lot more graphic, but I'm not here to do that. But the last thing is a little bit different. I was a scout, and the scouts go in ahead of the main outfit to make sure we don't get ambushed by the crowds. And this particular day, we're outside, I think it was Coburg, Santana Rios, my buddy, the two of us. And we came under fire from a second-floor ledge, and Santana was in the open. I got behind a Panzer tank, and the shooter didn't see me, and he came out of the second floor. I saw him. I made a couple of shots, and I was lucky. I made a hit. He fell down to the ground. We ran up, no pulse, looking down, this handsome, really handsome, blonde, blue-eyed, young soldier. I was only 18, hadn't turned 19 yet. 15, 16, but blonde eye, blue eyes, and handsome. Later realizing he was probably a member of what's called the Hitler Jugend. I don't know if you've studied about the Hitler Jugend or the Hitler Youth. And near his body was a helmet, and inside was a picture of an elderly man and woman. And underneath scribbled, "Wir lieben dich, Mutti und Vati." What that means? We love you, Mom and Dad. And even though that was the enemy, and the rational part of my brain said he would have blown me away if he saw me behind that tank. And I did my job and I followed orders. I couldn't get the fact that I killed this young teenager that was never going to go home to his mother and father. And as I said before, I didn't enjoy killing, and this particular incident was one of my nightmares over and over again. I'm going to tell you again that combat is not a video, TV, movie, or whatever. And again, there are no heroes in foxholes. There are no atheists either, I can tell you that. Guys wet their pants the first day when they're in there. That's nothing to be embarrassed about. They do worse than that. At any rate, from Germany, our outfit was moving from the west, and the Russians, or allies, were coming from the east to squeeze the Krauts in between us. And we were taking a lot of prisoners, and mainly there was the Hitler Jugend. I didn't know who they were at the time, but we soon found out. They were fanatical hate mongers. And they inflicted a lot of casualties. I lost a lot of buddies because of this Hitler Youth. The two elements of the Nazis that were the Waffen-SS, those lousy cowards, murderers, and the Hitler Youth. I had no problem with the Wehrmacht. That was the German soldiers. To me, they were doing their job like we were doing ours. But the hate from the Waffen-SS, I had 5 buddies taken prisoner. The Waffen-SS, and we found them 24 hours later. And 2 craters, each one with a bullet here. That's the Waffen-SS. I got to watch what I'm going to say. So. And the Hitler Youth were just as bad. This particular time, near the end of the war, we were taking a lot of prisoners. We had this big blonde kid shackled like this with his hands behind his back. And I'm over here to the right, and he makes a right turn, comes right up to me this close, and starts spitting right in my face. Once, twice, and screaming at me, Amerikaner Schweinhund, Schweinhund, with hate in his face. Now let me get to the main focus of why I'm here. Around the beginning of May 1945, we came across a POW camp. You know what that is? Prisoner of war camp, and mostly RAF. That's what the RAF was. Gotcha. Royal Air Force, British flyboys. Pretty good shape, little thin. And all of a sudden, thank you guys, geez, they were happy, they were free, thank God, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard some, guys, we hear there's a camp for Jews. There's a camp for Jews a few kilometers away. So we all looked at each other, my buddies and me, what's he talking? Camp for Jews? We didn't know anything about camps for Jews. And I say that because in Q&A and many of the places I speak, some of the kids come up afterwards and say to me, Mr. Moskin, you said you didn't know about camps for Jews. I thought you went over there to liberate, to free the Jews. No, at our level, we didn't know anything about camps for Jews. I'm not talking about President Roosevelt and the mucky mucks up top. We all loved our president, everybody in the neighborhood, everybody everywhere. Franklin said, what an orator, what a speech. And then when I found out, God, about the St. Louis not being allowed to land with all those people, and the fact that the Jews, in my judgment, just weren't a priority. Those camps were going up for years, but I don't want to start politicizing here. But we didn't know anything about camps for Jews. And we were supposed to go toward Linz in Austria, where there was still some combat fighting going on. And we went into this forest. It was damp. It was dank. And all of a sudden, there was the most offensive, nauseating stench you can imagine. A smell that got into your nostrils, into your brain. We all looked at each other. What in the is that smell? Whew! It got worse and worse. And all of a sudden, we came out through the trees. I remember seeing barbed wire, like a compound, and up on the top in big letters, Arbeit macht frei. Literally, it's supposed to be, work will make you free. What a bunch of garbage that turned out to be. There was very little resistance. There was just one SS guy. For some reason, he was told to drop his gun by the interpreter in German 5 times. I was there. The idiot wouldn't drop his gun. So we had to blow him away. That's the last mistake he made. When we entered this camp, cut through the barbed wire, it turned out to be the Gunskirchen Lager, a sub-camp of Mauthausen in Austria. When we entered that camp, it was the most horrific sight I've ever seen or ever hoped to see the rest of my life. There were piles of skeletal bodies on the left, and I mean skeletal. And on the right, the same thing. The stench I told you about. We had bandanas trying to cover our nose. Those who were alive were so emaciated it defied description. They were like, all I remember looking at like bones with no flesh, broomsticks. There was no flesh, cheeks all hollowed out, the eyes sunken back deep into the sockets of the head. No hair, most of the teeth that they had were discolored. There were sores all over the body. Unbelievable. We looked at each other, we couldn't believe what we were seeing. Essen bitte. Wasser bitte. Zigarettenbitte. Food, water, cigarettes. I didn't smoke. Some of my buddies would start handing out their cigarettes, and they would take this, you know, like the tobacco, try to get to the, just cover off, take the tobacco and start chewing it. It's what starvation does to you. They were chewing it. Like, I couldn't believe what I first watched. They gave out the food, and all of a sudden, many of them would grab their esophagus, or let's go, falling to the ground, choking. We got frightened. We didn't know what we were doing, and the medics came up and started screaming, "No more solid food. You can't give out solid food," because apparently, when you starve, you know, it clamps up. You can't swallow. So they were choking, falling to the ground. It was chaotic. We're trying to help. We don't know what to do. And then many of them started to back up, I remember, like they were scared. And our lieutenant was smart enough to realize, he said, "Tell those poor souls," that's the term he used affectionately, he meant, "tell those poor souls we're American soldiers. We're going to take care of them. We'll feed them. Who can speak Yiddish? Who can speak Jewish? You're German." I remember being so frustrated because my parents never spoke Yiddish in my presence. And when they came from the old country, "You're an American now. You speak English." My grandparents used to sit down with me when I'm doing my homework and want to learn English, read the book. But I somehow was able to say, "Ich bin auch a Yid." I don't know where it came from. I still don't know where it came from. I'm not really the guy where I heard it. But "Ich bin auch a Yid," I'm also a Jew. When I said that for the first time, there were some smiles at the Gunskirchenlager. This elderly gentleman came down on the ground, and he started to cry, and he started to kiss my boots were blood-soaked in mud, and he's on the ground, and, you know, I knew he meant well, but I felt uncomfortable, like somebody groveling at my feet, so I didn't want him to do it, so I picked him up like on the armpits. And he was this way, and I picked him up, and as I picked him up on the back, first of all, the smell, God, it was so bad. And the back of the nape of his neck had these pussy sores, these festering pussy sores. Not only the lice was crawling out of all these sores. I mean, I'm trying to give you the picture and how God gave me the strength I wanted so badly to pull away. But I didn't, thank God. And God gave me the strength to hold him, and he started to cry over and over again, and I started to cry. There was only one other Jewish kid that I remember. It's Herbie, somebody from Brownsville or somewhere in Brooklyn. You know, I'm a Jersey boy, so I don't know Brooklyn or Brownsville. I think it was Brownsville somewhere, Herbie. We never knew last names. And then one after the other came up to you. Americana, Danke, Jude, Americana, Danke. It was very emotional. This was everywhere you looked. Everywhere you looked in the Gunskirchenlager was the foul stench of the dead and the dying. And then our squad was then told to look, check the barracks. And I went into the barracks, and God, it was as far as you could see, hundreds of meters, 2 layers, you know, 2 bunks, one lower one. It was, I don't like to use the word sardine, they were like piled on top of each other, like squeezed in like sardines. Many dead, many in the terminal throes of dying, some laying on the muddy ground on top of each other, dead. The smell, you couldn't even stay in there. And I remember many looking and saying, "Hilfen Sie mir, helfen Sie mir, somebody help me." I came out of there and I started screaming, "Medics, medics, medics!" The poor medics were overmatched. There were hundreds, if not thousands of us all over the Gunskirchenlager, and they were trying to run from one to another, who they could save, who they couldn't save. I'm just trying to give you the picture of what was going on. When I came out, you couldn't stay in those barracks. The stench was so powerfully bad. And as I came out and I was screaming, "Medics, medics," I saw this dead horse, a dead horse on the side of the road, and I saw 3 of these inmates with the bark of a tree, and they're digging it into the entrails of the horse, and they're pulling the guts out and chewing on the blood is squirting all over. You picture that, what starvation does to you. Not a video game, not a movie, I'm telling you, the gospel. And then I can never forget this young lad with his, outside the barracks with his head against the barracks. He was all like, to me, 50, 60 pounds. All I saw was bones, like a skeleton. And one of the medics was trying to console him, and he was mumbling, and he made eye contact with me. And I couldn't break the eye contact, and he looked at me and kept muttering. And I said to the medic was a pretty good interpreter. What is he trying to say? What is he saying? And best I can remember, this poor kid was saying, why did they want to kill me? Why did they want to kill me? I didn't hurt anybody. I'm a good person. I didn't do anything. Why did they want to kill me? Just because I'm a Jew. Just because I'm a Jew. Over and over again. And then his head just toppled down, and medic, no pulse. And that's how this young kid died. I don't know what I could have answered him. Why? That's how he died. Why do they want to kill me? I'm just a Jew. Because I was a Jew or something. And I remember a few times feeling weak in the knees, and I had seen a lot of combat, and I had seen a lot of death, but this was just overwhelming. Maybe because it was Jewish people, I was a Jew, I don't know, but I do know this, that many of my non-Jewish buddies, they were just as upset as I was, if not more so, and they screamed out, they're going to kill every Nazi SOB. You don't treat people like this. After the war ended in Europe, in May of 1945, I remained in Austria and Germany as a member of the Army of Occupation. I was there for about a year, and I had the opportunity to speak to so many other GIs, Jews and Gentiles alike, as well as many hundreds of survivors who've been liberated from Dachau and Auschwitz-Birkenau, and Sobibor and Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald and Majdanek and Kelno and Treblinka. There's so many. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of these camps, all the sub-camps, all over Europe, going up in the 30s and 40s. One story was worse than the next. They had photos of the crematoria, the gas chambers. It was ghastly. It was unbelievable horror. It was mind-boggling. It's 66 years ago, almost to the day. Left a mark on me. My heart, my soul. I wish I could get rid of the mark, but I can't. I keep repeating over and over again, how did this happen? Why did this happen? How did the free world let something like this happen? And I never got an answer that made any sense to me. So in the memory of those 6 million, every time I speak, in the memory of those 6 million, and remember that if you don't know it already, 1.5 million of the 6 were kids like you, children. The evil of these, I have to watch the words I'm going to use here because I'm pretty carried away. But these monsters, like Dr. Mengele and the others, they would put a person on the operating table and a stopwatch nearby, and they would start to cut without anesthesia. And the screams would go out. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. And keep a record till the scream stopped. And the person would pass away. Evil we were fighting. Dr. Mengele and the rest of his butchers. And Ike told us. Ike is the name we use for our commanding general, Dwight D. Eisenhower. And he was ahead of his time. We didn't even realize it. He said, you're fighting evil here. Now you know it. If you didn't know it before, you know it now. Get it down, he told us. Get photos, pictures. Our captain told us that the commanding general said, don't pick up the bodies, let the German civilians come in. We had to bring them in, let them look at the bodies, let them put them on the trucks. I got one picture here, I'll show you if you want to see it. So in the memory of all those poor souls, as my lieutenant said, who were savagely degraded, dehumanized, tortured, slaughtered, and murdered by the Nazis without cause or reason, you must never ever forget what happened in the 30s and 40s in Europe, and what I'm telling you here. And a fellow by the name of Maury, who came over to our company, from headquarters company. Maury was a very religious Jew, much more so than me. And it was around Passover time. You know, you forget holidays when you're in combat on the line. One day you don't even know what day. But Maury did, and he knew it was Passover. And Sergeant Ali, who was a big regular Army guy from Tennessee, and I don't think he ever saw a Jew or a colored person in his life until he was in the service. He was tough as nails, but Maury says to the sergeant who's going back on 48-hour pass, R&R, we call it, rest and recreation, because you can't stay on a combat line every day. They try to alternate, let you get 2 days of rest and recreation, or else you go batty altogether. So it was Sergeant Ali's time to go, and Maury said to the sergeant, Sergeant, could you possibly bring me back a little cup egg matzah and gefilte fish? And I'm looking at Sergeant Ali, and I'm saying, oh my God, he don't even know what he's talking about. You know, he's talking. It's amusing, but it's not amusing, but I'm saying. He's telling the Sergeant Ali to bring back matzah and gefilte fish. 2 days later, the sergeant comes. He's got this big wrap of cloth, and he comes up. I think it was outside Nuremberg, near the end of right near the end of the war. Where's Maury? Where's Maury? And he opens up this and I say, oh my God, he's got egg matzah and he's got this tin of gefilte fish, and he even brought the chaim, you know, the horseradish. And where's Maury? And poor Maury had gotten hit by a mortar shell the day before. Sergeant Ali, this big, tough, regular Army guy, so happy that he somehow had gotten this for Maury, and we had to tell him that Maury was gone. And he turned around, and I never saw him ever tear up, and he just lost it. And we all did. And I'll never forget that. Because we got people like that Ahmadinejad and the rest of his ilk saying that the Holocaust never happened. It's a myth. And they're going to, 10, 15 years when we're all gone, like myself and the survivors, they're going to come out of the woodwork and continue to say the Jews made it up. It didn't happen, ba 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 ba. And you guys, if you think I'm lying, I made this story up, then don't say anything. But I'm here because, believe me, I'm not getting the big bucks what I'm doing here. I'm doing it because it's important for you guys to hear the message. And don't look at the next one. Each one of you got to make sure that what I saw never, ever happens again. I want to thank you very much, and God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.